Yo, what is up guys? It is Samool back again with another Epic 7 video for you guys today. And today we have a video to help you newer players out there if you guys just started playing. We're going to be talking about which banner units you guys are going to want to pull no matter what. We're not going to be talking about the banners running right now. We're just going to be talking about every single banner in general. Now keep in mind we will be excluding collaboration banners because those units you should be pulling anyways because there's a chance that collaborations don't rerun. And we also will not be mentioning Sigrid, Sermia, or Vivian because those units are all available for free from the quest line that you get as a new player. We will be talking about limited banners though, such as Summertime Iseria and non-limited banners because limited banners do come around every single year and they are still accessible for free-to-play players if you guys start playing at the right time. That being said, let's get started with what I think are the best units that you guys are going to want to pull for no matter what. So the first limited unit that we're going to be talking about, we're going to be talking about 3 in total, is Landy. So I think Landy is the best limited unit in the game overall, in my opinion. She's extremely versatile. She's one of the best DPS's damage dealing units for PvE content. You can use her in like Banshee, Ice Expeditions. She's extremely powerful in Raid. You can use her like in Automaton Tower, Abyss, just overall anywhere where she's not countered by like fire elemental bosses. She's extremely powerful. She does a lot of damage. She has a lot of utility for a team. And yeah, she just has a lot of damage. So very, very powerful. PvP, she's also very good. You can actually use her basically anywhere in PvP right now. The meta for PvP has actually slowed down again. And that is where Landy truly shines because you're going to see that her damage scaling over long periods of time is really crazy with this S2 ability. It actually will boost her attack by like 60%, so it's actually insane, and it only takes 3 turns to happen, and you're going to see that your Landy will cycle very quickly if you put her on pretty decent gear. So yes, Landy, best limited unit in the game in my opinion overall for just everyone in general. Actually, she's very, very powerful everywhere, so I definitely recommend pulling for her. Her banner usually runs somewhere around the fall and autumn time, so keep your eyes peeled for her banner. We'll be talking about her more in the future later on because I think she's just a crazy unit still, even a year after her release. Second limited banner we're going to be talking about is Seaside Bellona, whose banner should be running within the next month or so actually. She's a Ice Ranger. She's extremely powerful in PvE, much like Landy. You can use her similar to Landy, just anywhere where she is encountered by elements, so anywhere that's not like an earth elemental boss. And she's pretty much good in areas of content where Landy is pretty much exactly the same almost. And Seaside Bellona is a little bit better in PvE in some areas, a little bit weaker in some areas. But Seaside Bellona is really nice because she has her S2, which makes it so she does a lot of AoE damage. Her AoE damage is a little bit better than Landy's, but Landy's single target damage is a lot better, I'd say. But it's really nice because Seaside Bellona actually has a defense break as well, so you can use her as a secondary defense breaker. The only downside to Seaside Bellona though, she has a lot of debuffs, and this is good in, one sense, but some bosses will actually make it so that you cannot stack too many debuffs on them or else they'll have like an enrage. So you have to keep your eyes peeled for bosses that have that mechanic. But overall in PvE guys, Seaside Bellona is one of the best DPSs in the game, similar to Landy. And in PvP, she's very usable against certain meta units. You can use her as a counter to like any AoE abusing unit that will stack her S2 actually. She's very, very strong against. You just have to keep in mind that she does have a lot of hard counters out there, so you can't, slot her into defense teams, into like World Arena as a blind pick like that, such as you can with Landy, but still usable in PvP, just not nearly as good as Landy is. So for that reason, I think Seaside Bellona is definitely a must pull. She will carry you in PvE early game, and in PvP, you can use her in certain situations in her own niche where she can be used as a counter pick. Now, the third and the last limited unit we're going to be talking about is Diene. So, there are more limited units out there, right? But I think these 3 limited units will help players out the most early game and mid game for PvE content and transition very well into PvP as well. Other limited units, they are very good in certain situations, but you won't really be able to use them till late game, or they're very, very specific in their niche, so I didn't include them. But Diene, yes, Soul Weaver unit. She's very powerful because she has a lot of buffs for your team. She has a barrier and she can CR push as well. She recently got buffed as well, so she's very, very strong. In PvP, she is almost like a must ban in some situations because of how powerful she is. Since the meta has slowed down, that means that Diene will be picked more often, and Diene is pretty much picked almost all the time nowadays. PvP, she's extremely good in World Arena specifically. You can use her on Arena offense teams, Guild Wars offense teams. You won't really use her on defense though, because she actually gets countered by a lot of Earth units, especially Landy. Anything that abuses targets with a lot of buffs, they will pretty much crap on Diene. So Diene isn't really blind pickable in defense teams, but in World Arena you can pick her alongside other units pretty early on. PvE, she's also very good because she has an attack buff. Just keep in mind that she doesn't have any built-in healing without an artifact equipped on her that will heal, that artifact being Rod of Amaryllis. If you guys don't have that artifact, it might be pretty hard to use her in PvE without another Soul Weaver to help her, but she's still very good because she has an attack buffer. I wouldn't say she's better than some other Soul Weavers we'll talk about later on in this video, but she's still very serviceable early on if you can get her, and she's a very, very powerful unit. Now, keep in mind these limited units, guys, they only come around once a year, so you guys are going to have to, pull on their banners during their certain timings that they come out, but they will return again in the future, so keep your eyes peeled for their banners releasing. Now we're going to talk about the non-limited units. Those units will run about, a couple times every year, so they're a lot easier to get, and those units that are non-limited, you can actually pull from regular Covenant banners, so you might have a higher chance of getting them early on. So the first non-limited unit, to no one's surprise if you've been playing this game for longer than like a month or so, is Tamarinne. So Tamarinne is the best PvE unit in the game, not just Soul Weaver. You can pretty much take her into any area of content besides Wyvern, and honestly you could probably even make her work in Wyvern if you really wanted to, but she is insane. Now Tamarinne, I'm actually going to talk about her skills because you're going to be able to see how broken she is by just looking at her skills. There's a lot of text. You're going to see that her S3 works kind of weirdly because it starts on cooldown, but when you actually use this, it will upgrade your skills, right? Her S2 turns into an AoE heal, AoE attack buff, AoE combat readiness push. S1 turns into an AoE attack that will dispel all buffs on enemies and trigger a dual attack. So you can see her kit is just crazily overloaded, which makes her extremely powerful for PvE. I'm not going to talk about where she's good in because she's basically good everywhere, guys. In PvP though, you won't really use her because her S3 does start on cooldown, so it's really, really weird. You can actually use her with Iseria in some PvP cleave teams, another 5-star unit, but I don't really recommend, cleaving like that because it's super niche and there's just better options to cleave with. You're better off using your Tamarinne in PvE, and Tamarinne is a must pull unit. If I could reroll an account and I could choose one unit to start with, it would be Tamarinne. Like, Tamarinne is so broken, guys. If you guys see your banner pop up, even if there's like a collab or limited coming around the corner, you guys might want to consider pulling for Tamarinne if you don't have her because she's just that strong. The next non-limited unit we're going to talk about is actually also a Soul Weaver, Roana. She's also very good in PvE, similar to Tamarinne, but not as, universal, I'd say. Roana is very specific in what content she's good in because of her S2, being that she will actually only really heal your team when your team is attacked by an extra attack, counter attack, or dual attack, as well as pushing their combat readiness up. Her other abilities don't really heal or do that much, in my opinion. You're mostly using her for her S2, so for that reason you're going to use her in very specific situations, but in those situations she will trivialize the bosses because she's constantly healing, constantly giving your team CR, and just doing a lot of work. Specifically, like Hell Raid, she's really good. She's good in Adventure Mode for Episode 3 and onwards. There's a lot of bosses. She's good for Katie's. She's good for a lot of Expeditions, some Abyss Floors, Automaton Tower, right? Just not as universal as Tamarinne, but still very, very good as a PvE Soul Weaver if you pair her with another Soul Weaver that can heal. She's also good in PvP as a counter pick to certain units that, like I said, have extra attacks, dual attacks or counter attacks such as Bellona, Rem, Seaside, Bellona, anything that has a counter attack set she's very good against. So yeah, very, very good in PvE and PvP, translates very well. So very decent unit. Definitely recommend pulling for her because when you start doing Hell Raid on auto, you actually need your Roana to do it, and when you start farming Katie's for your penetration sets a lot later down the line and start doing expeditions, you're gonna see that Roana makes especially Katie's very, very easy. So you definitely want to pull her, guys. She's extremely good in the mid game, and she translates well into PvP as well as a good counter pick. Now the next non-limited unit we're going to talk about is Iseria. So Iseria is actually available from the selective summon. A lot of people actually recommend her, or Ravi. I go between both of them, but Iseria, very, very good unit. I definitely recommend pulling for her no matter what because she's extremely powerful in the mid game. You're going to see her S2 here is a skill that will reset the cooldown of an ally, and this is very good because if you remember Tamarinne, right, her S3 starts on cooldown. When you activate her S3, she becomes like super buffed, so she pairs very, very nicely with Iseria, and those two are a tag team duo. If you bring them in PvE together, they are very, very strong. Iseria is extremely powerful in a lot of areas of content. She's a very good support DPS because of her defense break and dispelling capabilities. She's very good in like Azranak, Banshee, Raid, pretty much like almost every raid boss. You can use her in Expeditions, Abyss, Tom Tower. She's just very, very strong. Katie's as well. So you definitely want to pull for her. She will make a lot of areas of content a lot easier. And the best part about Iseria, guys, is that you actually don't need to put her on decent gear. You can actually just keep her at level 50. You don't have to 6-star her. You can just put her on speed, effectiveness, and tank stats, and she will do her job perfectly fine. She made my Azumnak team a lot more stable, and she will definitely help you, especially if you know what areas of content to bring her into. That being said, in PvP, you won't really use her at all, but that's okay because, you know, a lot of non-limited RGB units are mostly going to be for PvE, and the 3 that I mentioned are extremely good for PvE, with Roana being one of the units you can use for PvP. That being said, let's talk about some PvP units that you want to pull for because they are just extremely broken. You don't want to miss out on them. So yes, guys, no surprise, we have Hwayoung. So Hwayoung, not much to say. She's just extremely broken in PvP. They just keep trying to bring out counters to her, but she's just still broken. She has insane self-sustain because she actually has a barrier on every turn that scales extremely well with her HP, or not her HP, her attack. And she has a mechanic where she does more damage to units with higher HP, and she also penetrates defense. So she's going to be one-shotting tanks. Not fun to play against, very fun to play, and very highly contested in PvP. You'll see her pretty much everywhere in the high end, and she's actually not that bad in PvE either. She actually does decent damage as well for PvE, so you know, you can actually use her in PvE if you wanted to, although she's not that great compared to other units like Landy, Seaside, Bellona, Commander Lorena, but it's still serviceable. Mostly for PvP, guys, she's just that OP that you have to pull for her because, you know, she's just so OP. She literally one-shots tanks as a damage dealing unit, and she's extremely hard to kill, so you definitely want to pull for her. Even though you won't be able to use her effectively until like the mid to late game, you definitely want to pull for her because Epic 7's progression is pretty streamlined, pretty easy to get through, and pretty quick, so you'll be able to use her faster than you think. And the last unit that we're going to talk about today, she is also non-limited, also a PvP only unit, is Peira. So Peira is a very powerful PvP unit. The reason why I like using her and why I recommend her is because she is actually super strong as an opening unit for PvP, and she's very blind pickable. You can use her in defense teams. You can just throw her into any Guild Wars and Arena defense team and you should be fine. Scare off a lot of people because she's super fast, and she's extremely good in World Arena, especially if you like cleaving. And she's really nice because the easiest way to climb Arena actually early game is to cleave, and by having Peira you'll be able to climb Arena pretty quick because she's an extremely powerful cleaver. You can pair her with like a Summertime Iseria actually, whose banner is running right now, or you could pair with like a Challenger Dominion. You could pair with pretty much anything that likes to cleave, and she's very strong. Now she won't have any usage in PvE, so I definitely, you know, wouldn't put her on the top of the priority over like Tamarinne, Roana, and Iseria. Same with Hwayoung, but you know, she's still a very powerful unit, and even as an early game player, if you pull for this PvP only unit, you can actually use her pretty quickly because, like I said, she is very strong in cleave, which you should be doing in the early and mid game to actually climb an arena. So that's pretty much it for the units that I recommend as of now pulling for. I will be releasing, you know, videos like this periodically and updating the banners because honestly, as new units release such as Hwayoung and Peira, the priorities kind of change, and as meta changes, some units become so blatantly broken in PvP that you have to pull for them, like Hwayoung, right? And even like Peira. So I will be releasing these types of videos more often. If you guys have any suggestions for some videos that you guys want, or any like guides that you guys want, let me know in the comments down below what you guys want, and also hit that like button to help me out for future videos, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.